chez tous les amis, les grands et les petits, regardez bien. Le cœur fier et l'œil malin, voici venir au loin votre ami Saturnin.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Infernal Brains Podcast. I'm Tars Tarkus from tarstarkus.net.
And I'm Todd Statman from Die Danger, Die Kill, aka FourDK.
And the Infernal Brains have returned after taking a leave of absence for some important brain business.
Indeed.
Yes, to bring you what is probably a very legendary, semi-lost film.
Yeah, you'd think that after being gone for so long we'd want to return to cozy territory, but I think we're actually going into a lot of uncharted waters with this new episode. A lot of firsts with this episode. I think we're excursioning, if that's a word, which it isn't, to the outermost reaches of our understanding and maybe even our intelligence with this one.
Yes, we're also, it's not the first time we've hit this continent, but it's the first time we've hit France.
Indeed.
Yes. We might as well get on with it. The film we're going to talk about is, well, forgive my horrible French, but Un fait pas comme l'auteur.
That's good.
Just mangled up, but it's best known in America as The Secret of Magic Island.
Indeed. And it has a reputation as being a pretty rare and sought-after film. There was even a piece about it in the Huffington Post a while back, where for people who'd never heard of it, like myself, you got to read about what a sought-after film it was by cult film enthusiasts.
And
we found it.
Yeah. It turned out to be sort of not as lost. The lost version is apparently actually lost, but we have a non-lost version, which is slightly different. I
like that in my lost films, that they actually be lost.
Yeah, so I first ran across The Secret of Magic Island as a trailer on the Something Weird video DVDs that they throw in. And it was a trailer about a film that had all animal cast and a monkey, and it was obviously meant to be a matinee for children because they said that several times during the trailer, but it was animals doing human things and all animals, and it just looked amazing. And I immediately went to search for it and found it was not existing anywhere, and I was like, no.
Yeah, I understand why you said animals and a monkey, because you're used to seeing monkeys anthropomorphized in movies, but this has a pretty odd assortment. We've got like hens, foxes, pretty much every kind of animal that you would think would be a nightmare to get to do people things, hamsters and whatnot. It all adds up to a pretty memorable and strange experience.
Yes. But let's see. Let's backtrack and go.
But if so, ...
Yeah. So the original version, which is French, is written and directed by Jean Touraine, who is a French photographer who gained fame by photographing with his photographs of animals. Eventually he made this film, which, according to what I've read online, he built most of the sets himself and did most of the animal training and manipulation of the animals, although he probably had assistants for some of the scenes.
Yeah.
And he crafted this whole story about animals on a secret town, and they live their lives, and they do all sorts of neat people things, like driving cars and going to the circus.
And of course the town is a utopia. It's a utopian animal society.
Yes.
Except for one thing, the monkey.
Yes.
There's a very long, pretty complex narrated prologue where it sets up the story, and it's I was like, wow, really, do we need all this? I mean, let's get to the animals, cutting other animals' hair and stuff like that. But something about a fairy, which is the translation of the French title is, as far as we can get it, is a fairy like no other. But there's something about a fairy. Did the fairy make the island, or is the fairy just kind of like...
I think the fairy is their protector.
Is their protector, okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
The fairy is very lazy, though, and doesn't even...
also never seen in the entire movie, ever. Ever.
Yep.
So we can call them this fabled this so-called fairy
Mm-hmm.
is engaged in a life and death struggle with the villain, which is, at least in the version we watched, is called the Black Troll. The result of it all sort of seems like the intro to a Shaw Brothers kung fu movie or something,
Yeah.
but with where you have like the thunder sword or something. In this case, it's the fairy's magic wand is hidden away because that's what the black troll is after. So it's hidden away in a special case with a secret code that's the only way to unlock it.
Mm-hmm.
And then and this is quite a highfalutin prelude setup for a movie where we're basically going to be watching hamsters ride little motorcycles and stuff like that. So
Yeah. The neat thing about this film is there's maybe 20 minutes of actual plot, and the rest is like animals just wandering around doing their day and having fun, or at least what would be fun if they were humans.
Right. Yeah. What would be fun if they had actually wanted to do it and there wasn't some human holding their paws,
Yeah.
Among these things, and very absurd combinations of animals too. I think the most jaw-dropping scene in this is where hens go to the beauty salon and the stylist is a fox, and there's a scene of a fox washing a hen's hair, unquote. The hen does not look very happy about it, and the fox is just rubbing its paw on the hen's head. Is this just, is this a world where the hens have become so dominant that their service industry is staffed by their former predators?
Yeah.
It's pretty strange.
It's weird because the fox looks like he's having a grand old time being manipulated by the people too.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of he looks a little sad, I thought, but yeah, a big portion of the movie is the circus comes to town, so it's the animal circus. So a big chunk of the movie is the different animal acts, the different things that the animals do, and so a lot of what you get is a lot of shots of animals that are supposed to be spectating the circus, where it's just basically animals staring off into the middle distance, which is very hard to make exciting, but there's a narrator and he tries to pump it up with as much emotion as possible, and wonder, of course.
Yeah, and the animals do things that spectators do, like eat ice cream bars, and some of them are smoking, which is
Yeah, if you've always wanted to see a rabbit eat a popsicle, this is the film for you. I found that I did find this film really hypnotizing. It's it's hard to really put across. I've seen other films where the animals were characters, things like The Incredible Journey and and Lancelot Link, things with monkeys, but there was just something about this, the way it's done, that's just so strange and so obsessive, sort of the whole miniature city, and just this, and the fact that Jean Touraine only did these kind of things. He didn't do other films with people. This was his deal, was making animals do people things and filming it.
He just has this whole huge setup, and then some of the scenes here, you could tell he really liked what he created because there's just full of energy. Like when you first see the train, there's all these shots of the train is partially built out of musical instruments, so you see all these instrument parts moving.
Yeah.
There's more energy in the background sounds, and it just seems like, it's a big exciting mechanical train.
Yeah, the train was very cool. And then the end, well, maybe I shouldn't get into that yet. Should we, this, I don't think we've even mentioned Saturnine the duckling yet, who's the hero of the movie.
Yeah, well, he doesn't even show up till about 15 minutes into the movie, so.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time there's a lot of animal characters, and they spent a lot of time introducing them, and I was wondering if it was ever really going to have a plot, and I was sitting there taking notes because I knew we'd have to discuss this, and it's like, I can't do this. There are just too many different animals, and I don't really know what their function in whatever story is going to happen is going to be.
My notes was mostly a list of names, and then 80% of them didn't matter because they don't appear.
Well, yeah, and we were watching a Swedish cut of the movie, so it was in Swedish, so the names were all different from the French version. Like the animals had names like Erickson and Anderson and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we should mention too that in that Huffington Post article, it mentioned that K. Gordon Murray. I mean, the English dub version is the one that's everybody is looking for, that's totally lost. And the Huffington Post article mentioned that it was suspected that it was K. Gordon Murray who brought it to the States, which is an understandable assumption. But if you look at the trailer, it says Joseph E. Levine presents. So it's like, talk about the usual suspects, you know. So that's the origin of the English language version, which is lost. I don't know who lost it, but it's, yeah.
It might, be in somebody's garage, or it might be nowhere, so.
Right, or it might be in one of you listeners' possession. Maybe you should clean out the closet and see if you have the copy of The Secret of Magic Island, or The Secret of Outer Space Island, as it's also apparently called, because it's very much a sci-fi film. So anyway, Saturnine the duck shows up in town. He's there to visit his friend. Is he there? He's there to visit the cat, right?
Yeah, apparently the cat is his cousin.
Oh, okay.
Which makes sense.
I missed that. I'm so sorry I missed that the first time around. And the cat's in the Swedish dub, he's called Maestro Eriksson. What I liked about the animals is they're all very artistic, because Saturnine is a poet.
Yeah.
And Chassidu is the cat, is a musician, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So he comes to town, and Saturnine, and he falls for there's a duckling performer in the circus whose name I don't know who she is, but she's
Barbara.
Barbara, yes. And he falls for her, which of course means that she'll be menaced by the monkey villain at some point.
There's weird fantasy when he falls in love with her from a drawing of her on a poster.
Right.
And he gives the drawing of the poster, I think, flowers, which the poster takes and then winks at him.
Right. Yeah. Yes. I'm glad you remember this better than I do. That's great. Yeah, it's like a duckling version of Laura. He falls in love with her portrait, but yeah, he interacts with the portrait. The film goes into really wild, almost sci-fi territory at the end. Like the last act, we see the monkeys, the black trolls hideout, and he's got like a control room inside a mountain with a big screen that he's monitoring the town with, and then they have to, and he's kidnapped the dog Chocolat, because the dog knows how to. The dog plays the organ, of course, and the passcode to get the magic wand out of the box is a musical code. So the monkey kidnaps the dog, so to force it to play the code, so he can get control of the wand. So Saturnine and Chassidu save him, and then there's a mad chase where they steal the monkey's amphibious car thing, and there's a scene of the car like racing through the forest, and the monkey is firing missiles at it, and there's explosions going off on all sides, and it's almost like a Jerry Anderson kind of thing. Like it's actually kind of cool looking. The model work is actually pretty good, and the animals are not in the car when this is happening. It's all miniature stuff. It's hard to tell with it. I mean, I can't. I mean, I don't want to get into the too much into the treatment of the animals, but it's really hard to gauge how much the animals might have been mistreated. I did notice that there was sort of a spin-off TV series from this, Saturnine Le Petit Canard. I mean, maybe I'm getting ahead of ourselves by talking about the TV show, but the TV show apparently had some kind of, when it was shown in the States later, it did have a Humane Society seal at the end, which makes me wonder how they could put a Humane Society seal on something that was made from 20-year-old recycled footage, I don't think the Humane Society even existed in France then.
Well, maybe they certified the editing room when they recut it.
Yeah. Yeah, they come in, and the Humane Society, really all they do is they come in, like the main Humane Society guy comes and he just kind of waves a wand and he blesses the production.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry I got ahead of us with talking about. Do you want to talk about the TV series?
The TV series is actually my first exposure to the world of Jean Touraine, because it aired first on Fox Kids as the "We'll be right back after these messages" bumpers with Duckling, who spoke in a spy voice. Mm-hmm. And then that was eventually turned into little short episodes called The Adventures of Dynamo Duck, which is all us true 90 kids know. It was voiced by Don Castellaneta and would appear randomly on the Fox Kids morning Saturday time. So like you never knew when it was going to show up. Like that confused me as a kid because I was used to everything having regular times, and it just wasn't on certain weeks. I thought it was actually because it was showing later.
So yeah, it was just little interstitial kind of things.
Yeah, I really liked them as a kid, and I thought they were neat. But because it was so hard to actually find it, it became more like a mythical thing, and then went away, and that was that.
Yeah. I'd never heard of it. I did watch one of them recently on YouTube, and it was interesting. And it was interesting how they put the old footage together and managed to make it sort of a spy spoof. But it struck me that it was sort of maybe not adult oriented, but there were some obviously trying to snare adults too with the humor. Like the one I watched, Dynamo Duck, was reminiscing about his college days at Berkeley in the late 60s, and there was like a plot about student radicals and a detour to a psychedelic hangout in the Haight-Ashbury and Dynamo was kind of a stoner, he's like, in the flashbacks he's like, hey man, let's go to the Haight and check out some, so obviously not something that little kids watching the Fox network would really get or care about, but definitely interesting. I mean, if I had seen this, I definitely would have wanted to find out more about it. And the French series, which was also a short, I think it sounded like it was 15-minute episodes, but it started in 1964, lasted for 76 episodes. And then we don't know what happened. Do we know what happened to Jean Touraine after that? I guess he made another film about, you said he made a film about a balloon or something like that.
He produced a film about a balloon, and I think...
Not the red balloon, though.
No, I think it's a different balloon one.
Yeah.
And I guess he was at some point. This is what I got from a translation of a French piece about him, so it might be translation errors, but I guess he was a mayor for a while at some sort of art commune town.
Huh.
And that's all I could really find about what he did. But the Saturnine stuff, there was picture books and toys, and the various compilation VHSs were released over a couple years in France. And there's a box DVD set in French, which I don't know if that has all the episodes or just selected stuff. And that's all I could really find on it.
This reminded me of the Polly Shang Kwan episode where you can find stuff about this movie on the internet, but it's kind of like when we were looking for information on Polly Shang Kwan, we just kept finding that same thing about all the martial arts she had black belts in. It's just, you just keep coming across the same three little tidbits of information over and over again.
Yeah, most of it was the French Wikipedia entry on him just copied onto all these French sites. And so like I got to the point where I could recognize it without it being translated just from seeing the excerpts.
All of it just adds to the mystique of The Secret of Magic Island, though.
Though I will say his standalone animal photography looked okay. So from what I could find, like maybe.
Yeah.
And some of the picture books, I don't know if they're episodes of the TV series or if they're just separate episodes. Although in one of them he appears to be holding a gun, so I don't know if he's going hunting or if he's going to go murder somebody. So at Saturnine.
Yeah, it went dark. He went dark later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's actually a dog. Isn't it the dog Chocolat that's the photographer in the town? Or there's at least a scene.
It's another dog whose name I can't remember.
Another dog. It's a poodle or something.
Yeah,
but
he's the one who's always late, and so he's driving in the car and drives through the town and almost runs over a bunch of people.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, so there's a scene where a family of ducklings go to the fancy photographer and he takes their portrait shot, and maybe he was meant to be the dog equivalent of Jean Terrain. That was his interject into the movie.
Yeah, so he makes his money to fund his art.
Yeah. Anything more to say about?
My favorite scene is there's a giant spider.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's menacing a lamb, and when the heroes show up, and I guess they have to fight the giant spider, and the giant spider, it's a robot giant spider, so it's an actual giant spider.
Right.
So
yeah, it was weird that after seeing all the live animals, when they go to a spider, they have it's an obvious fake spider. Yeah, it turns into a quest narrative at the end, because after they get the wand or something, they have to, let me see, Saturnine goes to a fortune teller, right? That's an owl, and she sets out what he has to do, and one of the things he has to do is rescue an innocent, and the innocent, of course, is this little lamb. Yeah, in like a cobwebby little cave, and it's being threatened by this giant spider. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty horrifying, and it's Saturnine and the cat, his cousin, who they fly off in a balloon, which was pretty funny, and that was weird too, to see the duckling and a cat sort of cozying up to each other, and the cat looked asleep in most of the scenes, so I don't know if he was tranquilized or what. We'll never know, and it's probably best that we never know exactly how all these things were accomplished.
I would just imagine that they wore the cat out with playing with string, and
right, the cat was just having too much fun.
Yes.
Yeah, I was watching this, and then my wife came home. She'd been out, and she walked into the room, and she saw, I can't remember what was on screen, something with the cat. She was like immediately transfixed by the movie, and she came and she sat down, and she was just it's that kind of movie where it's like, what is this? And she's watching it, and she was engrossed until there was the scene where there was a kitten using a sewing machine, and it looked like it had like a real needle, and she was like, I can't watch this, and she walked out of the room. But the kitten is okay. I mean, as far as we can see, the kitten is unharmed.
She's probably lucky she didn't see the pig using the lathe or whatever it was using.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the pig. There's piglets. Yeah, the variety of animals is really impressive. I want to make sure not to confuse the other film we watched. Was it this movie that had baby alligators, or was it the other one?
It was the other one.
Yeah. The other one, okay. So we'll get to that. Quite an impressive array of animals.
I do have one logistical thing about this film. So I'm wondering about how the animals, how they, get together, because there's, hamster families and rabbit families and duckling families, but then there's also the mixed families where there's the cat and the duck are cousins.
Right.
Yeah, and then also it seems like the adult cats are a different group from the kittens, because the kittens are dating each other, but also the adult cats are separate, so I don't know if they're considered a separate group.
Kittens are a separate species.
Yes.
Yeah. I got a bone to pick with you, Secret of Magic Island.
Yeah. And is Saturnine and Barbara, are they adults or are they children?
Well, yeah, they're ducklings, and and it's the same thing. There's ducklings, and then there's adult ducks, like the family that goes to get their picture taken.
Yeah, I guess it's just it's the actual secret of Magic Island.
That probably is the secret. But anyway, needless to say, this is not a good educational film if you're actually trying to learn about.
Yes, you can't watch it in biology class.
Yeah, definitely not. Though it would be awesome if you could.
There are probably people who think that this sounds vaguely familiar, but yet has no familiarity with this movie, and thinks that there may have been more birds, and it's because you're actually sort of correct. There is another film like this.
Yes.
From America. It's 8 years older, from 1948. It's called Bill and Coo.
Yeah, indeed. And we should mention that this is one of the first, another one of the firsts for this episode is we're actually going to discuss a Academy Award-winning film on this episode. And that is Bill and Coo, which won an honorary Oscar in 1948 for being a film in which, quote, artistry and patience blended in a novel and entertaining use of the medium of motion pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suck on that, Avatar.
Indeed.
Yes.
And this is a film that it's all birds this time,
Yes.
which made it a little, it made it a little more palatable for me because it's meant as a showcase for trained birds who were trained by this guy named George Burton. They're called Burton's birds. And so mainly what you're seeing is birds performing tricks and stunts that they've been trained to do. So they're acting independently rather than obviously having someone manipulate their hands. Or in some cases in Secret of Magic Island, there's obviously like fake paws in front of the animals, but here you're basically watching sort of a trained bird act for most of the film.
Yeah, and like they have a little skit in front of the film where they show off that it's birds being trained.
Right.
So I guess people would have been easily confused or something.
Right. Yeah, there's the dumb woman who stands in for the audience who's like, trained birds? What, birds that perform tricks? What? That's the most amazing thing ever. Yeah, and also in that prologue, it's produced by this guy named Ken Murray, who was a vaudeville performer, came up with the idea for the movie, and as a means of showcasing George Burton's birds. So we get him at the beginning. He's also the narrator of the movie. So he's like kind of a cigar smoking wise guy kind of character, right?
Yeah.
He's like, "Hi everybody, we're working with birds. It's Moida." You know. So.
And the director is Dean Reisner. This is the only thing he directed, but he's probably best known for being a writer who wrote Dirty Harry and Blue Thunder and a bunch of classic TV series, and he was script doctor for a lot of films, so you've seen a lot of Dean Reisner's stuff.
Yeah, he was obviously kind of a mainstream Hollywood player. Yeah, and he contributed to the scripts for a lot of 1970s Clint Eastwood movies. But maybe the most important thing about Dean Reisner is that he was married to Mila Nurmi, aka Vampira.
Yes.
So, Also, he was an actor. This is another thing that makes him very noteworthy in my book. He started out as a child actor and then went on to be a bit player in adulthood. And according to IMDb, at least, his last screen appearance was in Mesa of Lost Women, which was an early favorite horrible movie of mine. He's aces in my book. So this movie is another honor it holds is of featuring either the world's smallest film set, or if you read Wikipedia, the world's second smallest film set. I don't know what the first would be.
Well, it was probably something that was filmed in a small room.
Yes.
Probably mumblecore, and it's probably terrible.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it's set, and I mean, it's very hard to imagine that Jean Touraine did not see Bill and Coo, because there's a lot of similarities between.
Yeah, it's shockingly similar in a lot of cases.
Yeah, down to it's the same thing. There's the town that's it's touted as being a utopia where every bird can live his dream undisturbed, and also the same gimmick of the circus comes to town in the middle of the movie. So a huge portion of the movie is just birds watching other birds like ride little tricycles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And down to the fact that the villain is a crow, and it's called the Black Menace. And I like to think that it was either that or a canary called the Yellow Peril, but that they decided a crow would be more threatening. So yeah, instead of the Black Troll, we have the Black Menace, who's treated like
He's basically treated like a giant monster.
Yeah, it's like Godzilla, and also, it's an immediately post-war film, so there's also, whenever the Black Terror shows up flying over the town, it's sort of like an air raid drill, and the birds all have to get in a shelter, which is called written on the door of the air raid shelter is Frayed Hole. Is that FRAIDHOLE. There's a lot of dumb gags in the set. Like there's little ads for bird centric products. Lots of dumb bird puns. The character names are all sort of dumb, bird puns. You can tell it does have a kind of a corny vaudeville sense of humor to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the guy, the crow who plays the Black Menace is Jimmy the Crow, who is actually really famous as well.
Right, and there's a trainer credited.
Yeah, he has his own trainer, and you can tell that he doesn't really share the scenes with the other birds. Mm-hmm. They do editing tricks, and I think the only time they're even together is when he's in a cage.
That's because of a contractual thing, because all the other birds were forbidden to look Jimmy the Crow in the eye when they were on set.
Yes.
But Jimmy the Crow doesn't really do much. He just kind of walks through the set.
Yeah.
He doesn't do any tricks or anything.
Well, doesn't he hold the match that's lit?
Oh yes, that's right. He sets fire to a house or to a hotel that's made of matches, that has a fence made of matches, which is a leap of narrative logic. Ken Murray's narration is really, really overwrought. He really tries to pump as much melodrama as possible. It's like the Black Menace glares with hatred at his check-tied nemesis, his sadistic brain conjuring ever more diabolical schemes. Everything is just so drenched in overwrought adjectives. And it kind of does help, because again, birds, especially these are all like parakeets and small birds, so they're not the most expressive of animals. So you need the narration to punch up the level of emotion, definitely.
There's other animals that appear, but they appear in cages,
right,
as part of the circus act. Like there's kittens that are told to be panthers.
Right. This is the one that had the baby alligators.
Yes, they fly over when they're in a balloon, which is another similarity. They fly over the alligators.
Yeah.
And there's monkeys that are in a cage, and one of the monkeys is shaking, and the narrator comments about how that monkey is scared.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The monkey's trembling, and he's like, "Look at that little guy. He sure is scared." And I'm like, yeah, he probably is really scared. And also at the center of this film, just like the other, we have a romance, which is between Bill and Coo. Bill being the boy bird. Bill's singer, and Coo I don't think gets to have a last name.
No.
And she's imperiled. Go ahead.
Oh, she's just said to be rich, and Bill's from the poor side of town, but
right.
Hard work. He's saving lots of money so he can impress Coo's father.
Right. It's a star-crossed romance, in other words.
Yes.
But then he saves Coo from the flaming hotel that the Black Menace has set alight. And the Black Menace does not have the cool kind of James Bond bad guy lair that the Black Troll did. But he just kind of randomly comes and attacks the town whenever he feels like it, until the end when they have what is the name of their they have a secret plan. Oh, Operation Scarecrow, isn't that what it's called? Yeah. Definitely this one, the plot held together. If I'm gonna critique these movies, I would say Bill and Coo. The other movie is stranger. Secret of Magic Island is stranger and has that weird hypnotic quality, but Bill and Coo the story holds together a little better. It's a little less scattered, and I guess it's not as confusing because you're dealing with all pretty much one species of animal. throughout it, but it was also pretty weird and it definitely put me in the zone, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It's pretty entertaining. It's unfortunate that both these films have the weird racial thing going on with it, which is probably part of the reason why you don't see Bill and Coo on TV anymore, because it seems like something kids would love still.
Right.
But because of that, it makes it unfortunate.
Yeah, I had never heard of this movie either until you mentioned it to me. But it's in the public domain. It's actually not hard to find if you know to look for it. But yeah, because it wouldn't have been broadcast on TV. Though I saw one thing that said that in the 60s and 70s it was a pretty regular, afternoon TV staple. But I never saw it. And those were prime TV watching years for me. But yeah, if you want to see it though, I'm sure you can find it on like archive.org or YouTube.
Yeah, I know it's on YouTube because that's where I first figured out it was actually something related to the Secret of Magic Island. But
yeah,
they make an interesting double feature.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it also...
Yeah, I watched them back to back. They're both very short, too.
Yeah, they're both like an hour.
Yeah, they're both an hour long, which was great, because I've been watching a lot of Bollywood movies lately, so it was nice to see something that was all resolved over and done in an hour.
I do think I like The Secret of Magic Island more, just because I think it's more fantastic.
Yes.
Or fantastique.
Yeah, it is fantastique.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that the last 20 minutes of it is wonderful. I really enjoyed that whole thing.
Yeah, I think I've looked for more modern stuff that's similar to this, and the closest I can find they have like dog animal actors mostly, but they use flash and other things to manipulate their arms and legs. So it's not the same as an off-screen hand.
I kept thinking of Keyboard Cat while I was watching this Secret of Magic Island. Definitely a precursor of that.
Heidi Fourpaws is the most recent thing that's similar, although that uses the flash thing. But you should definitely at least look on YouTube for the Heidi Fourpaws yodeling scene, and your life will be changed.
Yeah, I haven't seen that myself. So yeah, do I recommend these movies? I think that, I feel kind of hypocritical because I was just on Podcast on Fire railing against the animal. Well, I guess the animal cruelty in Calamity of Snakes is like of another order because it's actually, snakes being killed wholesale. I don't think the animals are being killed wholesale, but if you're sensitive to those issues, which I am, so I don't, but there's just something, the novelty of the film is just hard to sort of escape its spell, but it's
less obvious. Like in Milo and Otis, you can tell they're uncomfortable, while in these, I think the chicken's annoyed that he's getting his head washed, but
but it is it is like one of his natural predators that is washing its hair. So
and we don't know what showed up on Jean Tourane's dinner table either, so who knows what happened at his performers.
Maybe, if he took a picture of it or not. But at least, at least they got to go to Magic Island for a while. So, I don't know if I would recommend these movies. That's up to you. But I found them very interesting. This was a very interesting episode for me because I'd never heard of either of these movies until Tars Tarkas told me about them. And then I watched them both in one night, and it was a very memorable evening, indeed. I think we're finished with this dog and pony show.
Yeah. In Infernal Brain news, we now have a YouTube channel. Which,
that's right.
We will link below because we were kicked off of Blip TV because we didn't bring them in any money. So
all right, take that, Blip TV.
Yeah, so I moved everything over to YouTube for our the slideshow stuff. So if you like the slideshow versions, we're now YouTube, and you can subscribe there, or comment, or call us horrible names, or do whatever you want.
Yeah, tell us that we suck.
Yes. Do you have anything you want to plug?
Fighting Femmes, Fiends, and Fanatics web series is back with new episodes. We just did one on Blue Demon versus the Infernal Brains, appropriately enough, and that can be found on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel now. 2, we also have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/fightingfemmes, one word. So check that out. And other than that, I'm just doing my blog and all that stuff. And I have another episode of Podcast on Fire, Taiwan Noir, coming up too, talking about crazy Taiwanese movies.
That sounds cool. So we will adjourn this meeting to go on our quests to
save innocence.
Yeah, to retrieve wands and
yeah.
all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so until next time, this is the Infernal Brains signing off.
See ya.
Mesdames, mesdemoiselles, messieurs, l'ORTF présente les aventures de Saturnin. Saturnin, c'est moi. C'est un film de Jean Tourane.